Welcome back to Owner Operated. A huge thank you to our subscribers for listening and sharing all of our episodes so far. This week, we're excited to bring you an interview with Jake Schaefer, the owner of Elevato. Elevato is a digital marketing firm with a growing global client base, from small service businesses to enterprise e-commerce and software corporations. So today, we have on the podcast Jake Schaefer. He is the owner and operator of a digital marketing company that now does all things web. It's gone through a merger. It's going through a rebrand that he's going to tell us all about. And if we're being honest, a proud partner of ABG Print. Welcome to the show.
Thanks. Glad to be here.
So we always like to start off with the same question, which is tell us a little bit about how you got your start.
Yeah. So the name of my company is Elevato. We are a digital marketing firm. We literally can handle almost anything associated with the web in terms of marketing. So how I got my start with the company is based in my roots. I actually started my career in traditional media. So I was a radio advertising salesman for years, and then grew into management and regional, became a sales manager, and just really got great at learning the process of marketing and helping local businesses. And so, that took me into, started as a, an employee, and then that morphed into 2007, me buying my own company. I had a handful of publications and a TV network and radio station, and, had the opportunity to run that for a decade and then exit. And so somewhere in between that decade, in the middle of that, I started to realize that the world was shifting away from traditional media in the sense of being able to go to one or two or three places and spend all your dollars. And so I wanted to get good at digital marketing. And so as an entrepreneur, my way of doing that was to go buy a company that's already successful. And that's what I did. So that was 2017 when I first stepped in the doors of the first company that we purchased.
And one of the things that I've always felt about digital marketing, sometimes you hear the word digital strategy, is that it can encompass so many different aspects of what a company needs to do with its online presence, from advertising to search engine optimization to the website itself. I've noticed that there are some firms out there that do one small aspect, but they call themselves digital marketing, or then there's others that do a big umbrella of services. Talk to me a little bit about that. Where do you guys fit overall?
So we're more in the camp of offering, an expanded list of services. I think our strategy all along was recognizing that these things intersect. The way that your website works intersects with the way that your pages rank, and then that intersects with your Google My Business presence, which intersects with your location management and reviews. And so all these things tend to be connected. So we really wanted to get good through doing great work, and then also recognizing where we didn't necessarily have the strengths, and then, making mergers and acquisitions a part of that. And so that's really been how we've been able to expand our team, is grow organically and get really good at doing what we do, and then also find other companies that we can merge in.
And when you think about handling many of the different services that, to your point, all intersect, you mentioned that you guys specialize mostly in small to medium sized businesses. Do you have any industries in particular, or is your concentration just on that smaller size business?
No, I think, it's kind of interesting how the way the business evolves, if you do good work in a certain vertical, you tend to get referrals in that space, and then you become an expert to some degree. We have kind of buckets of big groups of customers, and so they're broken down into, SaaS, software as a service customer. We have a good chunk of our business are software companies that we're running campaigns for globally. We have heck of a footprint in Europe. We have big customer base here for SaaS customers, and then also along with that, as a sister would be B2B lead gen. So it's working with businesses to figure out lead generation campaigns for them to find customers. Another completely separate vertical that we have a big concentration of business in is e-commerce websites. We just added up our totals for 2020, and our customers processed $347 million in sales through websites that we built, manage, or campaigns that we run. And so
Wow.
that's another kind of big part of our business. Then we get into all sorts of, I think then kind of that bucket of just, small to medium sized businesses. We tend to work with a lot of companies that have 1 to 3 people on the marketing team. A lot of times the owner is one of those 3. They need someone to bring heavy lifting. So we have, a pod of people that we can bring to work with that business.
Got it. And so as the pandemic began in March, you mentioned you had software businesses, you mentioned you had sort of traditional, maybe more sort of brick and mortar oriented businesses that you're driving lead gen for, and you had e-commerce. I have to imagine that you noticed extraordinary changes within the success of each of those models, right?
Absolutely.
I have a suspicion some did better and boomed while others did worse. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so it was interesting because our engineering side of the business typically already stays booked out, 4 to 5 months in advance. So we can kind of look at the calendar and the pipeline, and there aren't very many holes. That business got even more acute. The need for that work was just off the chart. On the marketing side, we had the customers that do more organic oriented campaigns like search engine optimization or organic social. They were very stable. So it's kind of interesting because even in the verticals that were in trouble or saw a retraction or even almost no revenue, they recognize the value of the work that they do over time, and shutting that off makes an impact. And so I think it's one of those investments they were really willing to hang on to, one of the last things they wanted to cut. At the same time, we had a large number of customers that just completely shut off all their paid campaigns. It's like, why do I need to pay an agency to run campaigns when no one's out, buying their type of service? And that tended to be, the group of doctors that weren't showing up at their practice, or obviously, some were, but we had plenty in the medical profession that just, a group of chiropractors or something like that just, shut down for a while.
The way I've always thought about it, and I'd be curious for your take, is I always think about the content that a company creates and other efforts for search engine optimization is kind of like playing the long game. It's fighting for the long tail, right?
Yeah.
And then the short return, right, is the day-to-day search engine marketing, right? The SEM, the advertising, right? And so in an event like the pandemic, when near-term demand shuts down, but you're focused on the future, you're going to turn down the dial on what you're shooting for tomorrow, but you can't lose sight of what you're losing, what you're looking for in the long run.
Yeah. So, to sum up 2020, the engineering side of the business had significant growth. We really just worked a lot of extra hours. So record breaker in terms of billable hours. We were able to bring on more team members in that department. So we added new positions for developers and just had a record breaking year from that standpoint. The marketing side, overall, we saw about a 30% loss in revenue. So, different from the 20% that you were saying, some businesses felt. I felt very fortunate for that. Obviously, it wipes out the profit for those services. but just having the ability to retain, such great talent. I mean, eh, situations like this can be very emotional, not just difficult, because you build these relationships. You recruiting is such a big part of our business. We go out and find people, and then we work together, and we go to war together. Like we're fighting, competitive situations and working hand in hand and side by side. And then, something like the pandemic hits and you're starting to question, my gosh, can I handle this payroll? And fortunately, we retained more than enough business to make sure that we were able to keep going out there. And then we also had the strength of the other services to kind of prop the company up.
To some degree, do you feel any sense of sort of, David versus Goliath, as having your clients be small and medium-sized businesses in an environment like this? I mean, it's no secret that the pandemic has been harder on smaller businesses, right, than corporations. And your client base, right, to some degree is that small and medium-sized businesses that on whole, maybe your clients not specifically, but has been affected in a greater way as a proportion. Does knowing that you're helping them out, how does that make you feel?
Oh my gosh, yeah. And we do have a sizable book of enterprise level business. To me, it just feels different. And it's because if it's a budget and a line item that's just getting squeezed, it's more of a transactional relationship. Yeah, you have good relationships with your clients and you enjoy, meeting and talking. But, if a big national brand has a budget that gets squeezed, it's a quick email and, hey, sorry, we'll be back. But when it's the little guys, that this is their livelihood. Their families are attached to this. That the success or failure of the business. So I think you tend to, have a lot more concern for those customers because the connection is there. We spend more time with these clients. They need us more.
Sure. So I have to say, the first time we spoke, I called, and I won't share where you were, but I will simply share that you happened to be on vacation. And I remember that you picked up your cell phone, and I said, well, hey, listen, we can schedule a time to talk, or we can set something up. You said, no, now's good. Right.
Yeah.
And that always struck me. It stuck out with me as a very positive aspect about you, and something I think is true of all owner operators, which is it never stops. You're always running the business, right? Yeah. And when I think about who kind of we wanted to partner with, it's someone that understood that mentality, right? Of you were certainly willing to take a couple minutes out of your vacation to chat with a new prospect, right? And tell me a little bit about, as someone that's successfully purchased, exited, and now runs another company, right? Tell me about what it means to you to be an owner operator in terms of your involvement with the business.
So just another note to that. That happened twice. I don't know if you recall. One was when you were not a customer, and I took that and we had a great conversation. Then another one, I was on a cruise in the middle of the ocean, and you got lucky enough. This is a funny story. You don't know the other half of this. I'm just sitting in my room and my phone rings, and I'm like, why is my phone? I wasn't even carrying my phone. My phone rings and it says ABG Print. I pick it up and it's Jesse, and I'm like, oh, hey Jesse, how's it going? And you had something specific you were looking to get done, and I could help you out with it, and I did, and we talked through it, and it was great. And I hung up, and I was so happy. I told my wife, I'm like, how the heck did my phone ring in the middle of the ocean? And she said, well, Cuba's right there. And I said, oh wow, that's interesting. So I got home, I got this bill. I guess I didn't realize my cell phone, as we went by these little places, they were pinging the tower, and it wasn't just yours. It was like anytime we were going by one of these places, it was kind of funny. So it just kind of made me laugh. Like it was a little bit of a surprise, but I remember thinking, man, Jesse, his timing's dead on.
I certainly don't mean to call you while you're on vacation, but it's not like I know, but that is funny. I'm sorry that
It's good.
you got hit with
Oh, dude,
COVID
it was
from
funny.
Cuba. That's funny.
So anyway,
So
back to the question about being an owner operator. What give me the question again.
sure. So let's start it generally. What does it mean to you to be an owner operator, right?
I think it's evolved. I think, when I was 28 and I bought my first business, I was just thrilled to be a business owner. I wanted to not have a boss. I wanted to make all my own decisions and have the freedom and flexibility. And I think it was more about this vision of what it meant for my life. And I think, you know, as I got into it and realized the gravity of carrying that kind of payroll and the importance of hitting it, and then knowing that so many people's lives are connected to this, it just, I think, kind of morphed my own desire for those types of things. And I realized that I became more motivated to make an impact on the lives of the people that I'm around. And so I have people ask me every once in a while, what's your goal? Like, what's the big goal? What's your 5-year plan or your 10-year plan? And I have such a hard time answering it, because I do hear people have a very succinct answer. They'll say, well, I want to be a $40-50 million agency. I want to have 150 people, and hear a very specific thing. For me, it's more like, I want everybody around me to have a great time, to love what they do, and to do badass work. Like, I want great stuff happening around me all the time. That drives me. And to do that, we need resources. We need to pay people more. They need to have a great living so that they're not thinking every other day about, how they're not making enough money. And so that kind of fuels the fire, and that points us toward growth, and that makes it mandatory that we continue to grow. Where that goes, I don't know, but that is what motivates me as an entrepreneur. It's doing great work and doing it with people that I love to hang out with, and then making an impact on our clients' lives.
So it's interesting you say that. That is very much aligned both with my view and another individual that I interviewed in a prior episode. The way they couched it was, they always wanted to have a positive impact on their sphere of influence, right? And the sphere of influence was defined as everyone from the suppliers to the vendors to the partners to the employees to the clients. And that what drives them, to your point, and it sounds like what you're saying, isn't the money as so much as the sense of doing well. Not to borrow from Charlie Sheen, but it's like the feeling of winning is more addictive than the actual rewards of it.
Yeah.
I don't know. I kind of feel that way too. I'll be the first to admit I've experienced that much less than you have. But even this times when it's happened, and those small moments just feel so great. The positive feedback loop is addicting, I
Yeah.
find.
Yeah.
So if that's kind of the motivation, maybe with your first company, or even with your current one, tell me, when was the first time you felt like you truly owned it, right? When was it? Because
Man.
sometimes it isn't the day you make the acquisition, right?
Well,
It's
no, I will say though, I think after my third or fourth note payment hit the bank account, I think my countenance changed, the level of seriousness involved with owning a business changed, because I made, I think the first acquisition that I made, I think I overpaid, and it had a compounding effect on the cash flow of the business very quickly, and so it
sure.
made me realize that I have to perform, and so I think it got real fast. That I think that's when I changed over from that excitement of owning a business to, oh my gosh, this is going to be some work.
So you're the first individual we've talked to that began sort of entrepreneurship through what I call and other people call entrepreneurship through acquisition. It's the same thing
Yeah.
I did, to be fully disclosive, where you borrowed money from the bank, put
Mhm.
some down payment down, and perhaps finance the business both with
Cashed
income.
in all retirements of my wife, myself, my business partner. We put it all on the line for the first one.
And did the seller help you at all? In others, did they provide any financing as well?
Yeah, we had some seller financing. I don't remember what percentage, but it was a chunk of it.
Sure. And so then you're in a, to your point, you're in a position where you have to pay back both the seller
Yeah.
and the bank.
Yeah.
Um, and talk to me a little bit about why you chose that opportunity versus starting something from scratch.
Well, I think, you know, my kind of excitement toward owning a business all started, like a lot of people, when I read the book Rich Dad Poor Dad. And, I grew up with the poor dad, and just that book really just it was real to me. I could see that, you could make decisions and change the way your life ends up. And, his encouragement is through entrepreneurship. So he talks all about creating income producing assets, that aren't tethered to you, that aren't required by you. So I did all this random little stuff for years. Like, my wife would get furious because I'd show up and there'd be 10 vending machines that I was going to go find a placement for and run routes at night and that kind of stuff. And I think after 20 different ideas like that, I started to realize that I'm time poor, and there's an element of focus that's involved in owning a business. And if I'm going to do it, I need to go all in and live it. And so I think I got to that point, where it was time to just jump in and go. And so in terms of how did I select, or why did I take this opportunity? It really would just fit. It was what I was looking for. It was the industry that I had grown up in. I could speak the language. I felt like on day one, I could walk in and make an impact with just my own skills. And so it seemed to be the right fit. And it was. I mean, my business partner and I joke about how, we knowing what we know now, and having a much better understanding of how to value business, we really didn't do ourselves a favor in that negotiation.
And
We were, oh, go ahead.
no, I was going to say the challenge, of course, when you overpay, right, is it can put a stranglehold, right? Because that's money that has to go be paid back to the bank and plus as interest,
Yeah.
um, instead of towards marketing or towards growing the business, right?
Yeah. It required immediate growth. And we were able to pull it off. So we made up for it in subsequent acquisitions. So the cool thing is we kind of recognized, where we should have done better. And then when we got into subsequent conversations and bring on more brands and making, acquisitions to grow that company into, a little powerhouse in the markets it was in, the blended average became favorable, but it took learning from that first one and then morphing into those new acquisitions.
And um, the first exit you had, were you actively looking for an exit? Did someone come along? Like what prompted the motivation?
No, so this is a really interesting scenario. I I really liked the concept of having a business partner, from the very beginning, and I wanted to work with someone that offset what I viewed were my weaknesses, which my strengths are managing people and sales and growing, processes internally, and creating efficiencies within the business. I'd say some weaknesses would be, on the accounting side, the administrative side of the business, and just I can get mired down in paperwork, and feel like I'm not making an impact, on the sales side of things or with our people. And so was fortunate enough to bump into a gentleman when I was kind of thinking about owning a business, and we got to know each other really well and became best friends first, and then realized, hey, we should just go into business together. And so his name's Jamie, and Jamie is the we're the yin and the yang. We're in so many ways so different, in so many ways the same and complementary, and it was great from the beginning. We definitely had some tough years, but we've just been great business partners all together. So having him involved has been really good, because what's happened is he's one of these guys that can go out and make big fireworks and do big things. So he's not scared to ask anyone anything. And so, when we started, he immediately had this appetite for growth. And so he just started calling competitors and asking if they wanted to sell. And to our surprise, we had a handful of them that did. And he would have this saying after we put all of our money on the line on the first business. He said, you know what? I'm just going to operate with this idea that the money is the easy part from here on out. I'm just going to ask people to sell, and we're going to buy, and we're going to come up with creative ways to structure this, and we're going to figure it out. And I used to laugh at him. It's the most ridiculous thing ever. And it really did work. And so the first exit was actually a business that we started together, but he actually ran, because it's separate. It's random, but we business pitch conversation or competition, and we lost the competition, but we loved the idea, and he needed to build that out and have bought some competitors in the space. We grew that business, and we were able to sell it to a publicly traded company for an 8-figure exit. And it was really incredible. It was shocking. I wasn't even a part of running the business.
Wow.
So it was fun. So when did I know? It was when Jamie built up a business and sold it. And I was still over running our traditional media company.
Got it. And then you figured, well, shoot, this was fun. Let's do it again.
Yeah, so we still had the traditional media company. My passion was to stay in marketing, and we had someone make us an offer on that company, and so we were able to exit that. And then around that time, I really just was excited about the idea of getting into digital marketing. So I started reading and just kind of soak all the YouTube videos and white papers I could find out there, how does search engine optimization work, and see if I could really understand it. And then, we did what we typically do. And once I was ready, Jamie started making his calls again. And we found 2 separate companies that were interested in either bringing on a partner or potentially even selling. And so that's how we were able to enter into the business.
Got it.
That was in 2017.
Hey there, I want to take a minute to talk to you about MenuHost.io, a brand new website that offers dynamic QR menus for restaurants or any other venue in the hospitality space. Quickly design and implement safe menus with our library of templates and easy-to-use dashboard. Instantly change specials and pricing anytime without reprinting. Gather important data on customers with MenuHost tracking capability, which can retarget your customers with advertisements through Facebook or Google. So go to MenuHost.io now to register for free and set up your custom menu within minutes. You can even order laminated table cards directly from MenuHost. So if your restaurant, bar, cafe, salon, escape room, or anything else that uses a menu is reopening and wants to do so safely, check out MenuHost.io right now. Hey there, owner-operated listeners. Did you know you can order custom printed products on Amazon? We didn't either until COVID forced us to reinvent ourselves. That's right, the team at ABG Print got crafty and launched a printing store on Amazon. And guess what? It's kind of awesome. Want a custom calendar for 2021? How about floor graphics for your business to execute a safe reopening? Maybe custom printed envelopes or a slick retractable banner for a trade show? Flyers, postcards, wire-bound presentations? ABG Print can do all that and more. We've been around since 1992, always owner-operated, and always focusing on customer service to deliver your business great printed products quickly. Head on over to abgprint.com or check out our store on Amazon at amazon.com/abgprint. Use the promo code 10 owner op. That's 10 owner OP to get 10% off any custom posters. Need something ASAP or have a confidential printing needs for a deal? We're here to help for all of your printing needs. Just give us a call at 212-398-1010. Okay, now back to the show.
Since 2017, you've continued to grow both organically as well as through acquisition. So tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so we, the digital marketing firm that I went to work at full time, had a need for someone that was good in sales. And so what I really liked was the leadership at the time stayed on board and basically took over the operations while I could just jump in and just sell. And so my focus was creating partnerships and implementing marketing that would generate lead flow that I could then, sell to. And so that's kind of how that works. So I had never been in a role where I was an owner in the company, but only had to focus on one aspect of the business, and I didn't have any employees reporting to me. So I was able to figure out how to increase our lead flow significantly, and then just kind of sharpen the saw on my digital sales skills, understanding the business. And we were able to grow at a very rapid pace. We doubled the business in about 2 years, and it was at a sizable number before. So it really, to pull that off, made a massive impact on the business.
And when you are growing digital marketing, are the clients, I'm always fascinated because sometimes, I've seen digital marketing companies with billboards. I've seen digital marketing companies with direct mail. I've seen digital marketing companies with TV spots. And I'm always, I think about it and I'm always wondering in my head, maybe you can answer this for me. Is part of it, you're looking for clients that don't know the potential of digital marketing. And so you need to find them through traditional sources to then teach them about the opportunity. Is that an element of it?
I think the ones that are doing those level of campaigns, they feel like they have a strategy that they've fine-tuned on the digital side, and there's an aspect of connecting all the dots that is very important. And if you have the budget to do those things, I think a great digital marketing campaign starts with brand awareness, and that can happen in a lot of places. So getting those people way high up in the funnel is probably what they're trying to do. But yeah, I mean, I like to work with people who are a little bit more predispositioned to buy. They recognize the importance of it. But I think there is an aspect of education, and they need to know the possibilities.
Through the course, I mean, you've had a lot of success, both with the prior company and with your current one. Has there been something you've tried that just didn't work out, that just totally flopped?
Oh my gosh, like what? Like, I mean, with people, process, sales, I can pick any category.
Well, I mean, I'm always fascinated at how owner operators react when an idea they have just completely flops, and then how they go from there, right? Because it's a hit to your reputation potentially. It's certainly a hit to your pocketbook. It can be a hit to your confidence, right? So, for example, whether it was a new business line or a new attempt at marketing or any sort of experiment you did with the business that sort of just you thought was going to be a great thing. You thought it was going to be the future, but it just turned out not to be.
Yeah. So in my current situation, nothing comes to mind specifically to that. I think in my early years, I probably tried too many things and didn't focus enough on the products that I had. I felt like there was a general feeling that maybe this service line is maximized and I need to go do something new. And I would find that was an issue, specifically, we had a publications, and there were all kinds of opportunities within those publications to increase revenue. But my inclination at times was, hey, let's start a new one. and we had some that failed.
Mhm.
We had some that worked out really well, but I felt like when I would go deeper with what I had and make sure I maximized those offerings first, it was always better. Um, and then also what I realized was that you could come up with creative ways to take what you have and go deeper with that service line, but also you could be creative and make it different. And we found some ways to do that were very, very impactful. And in fact, I think the first one really, it really exploded that company.
So let's switch gears for a second and talk about managing people, especially. So your company now has, at least that I know of, you have 3 locations, right?
Yep.
And roughly speaking, how many employees are you up to at this point?
32.
Okay. And so
Between
32,
Phoenix, Denver, and Missouri.
got it. Phoenix, Denver, Missouri, right? And so between 32 individuals, as you grow in 3 locations, how has managing a team like that changed? And do you envision a world where you'll maintain an office structure, or is the future for digital marketing, everyone's going to be working from home?
Man, it's a hot topic right now, and I love having the offices. I love the collaboration that comes with those. The overwhelming feedback from our employees is that they just like the flexibility of work from anywhere. We've had people that have been able to go live in an RV for 6 weeks, and strategically make sure they end up every day in a place where they have great internet and they can't be interrupted, and the work gets done, and it's good work. And so, with technology, we have all the tools to monitor time and make sure that, tasks are getting accomplished and things like that. So I think one advantage that we had is part of our company has been remote for a decade. And so that group of people, approximately half of the company, really just that they're used to it. The other half of the company, while we had 3 offices, we did have a remote situation where we had these other offices that we always wanted to connect with. And so it's kind of funny because Zoom is all the rage now, and we definitely loved Hangouts or Meet or whatever. But there were other tools before then that we were able to use that are kind of the old school ones now. And so we've been partially remote for years, even on that side of the business. So we're always used to be, the Missouri office is always used to sitting in a conference room and seeing everybody from the Phoenix office. And so that part of it has been a part of the business. Another thing that's interesting is, since the day I walked in the business in 2017, 95% of our sales were on video conference calls. We were already doing it. The difference between then and now is, now I say I'll send you a calendar invite, and everybody knows there's a video conference link and everyone knows how to log in. Before, I would say, okay, I'm going to send you this calendar invite, and in that there's going to be a link to this video conference software.
Right.
Click that. There'll be a meeting. I have to step them through it, right?
Right.
And so
the
that's
first 10 minutes of this meeting are going to be figuring out how to walk you through the technology.
Right?
Right?
Yeah, exactly. So that's the difference. Is it's just, but yeah,
It's funny.
Oh, go ahead.
I was just saying, it's funny you mentioned it. You didn't call him out by name, but it is funny. Like, there used to be GoToMeeting and WebEx, and they're still around, but like, what happened to them? Like, what?
And it's like, how in the world did you guys miss this opportunity? You were in the space
Right.
for so long,
Right.
but you missed it, and your interfaces just didn't keep up, and that is what it is. But yeah, I foresee us. I think we're going to go full remote, in the sense that we're not going to require employees to come in. Personally, I love working from an office, and so I'm gonna keep an office and work from that. And then I think what we'll do is just do a lot more forced collaboration. We do have we have employees, kind of scattered out, but they are kind of in pockets, regions. And so doing that collaboration, and then doing some more team celebration. So this year we're going to do an in-person summit, and I'll meet up in a central location and have a week-long kind of session. But try to work some more stuff like that in.
I love that term, forced collaboration. It sounds everyone talks about like, oh, well, there's this organic collaboration when everyone can be in the office.
No, we're gonna have to force it.
No, we're just gonna jam it.
I mean, I feel like I have to work really hard to get everybody motivated to go to a lunch. Obviously, with COVID, it's a little bit different, but um, it's just kind of funny. It's like, oh my gosh, I have to get up and really do a little bit more than I'm used to in the morning.
Yeah, no, I mean, I certainly as a manager and an owner, I totally relate. I think that there's trade-offs, right? I mean, in the fully remote model, you save a bunch on rent expense that presumably can go into more headcount or more marketing or other investments, but that you do give up you give up what I think some other people call the first 5 minutes and the last 5 minutes of the meeting, the unscripted portion, right?
Yeah.
Where a lot of good ideas can come, but if you can solve it with this forced collaboration, which I love, I may borrow that if that's okay.
Well, it's going to be, hey, everybody's going to meet up here, and we're not going to argue about whether or not you can make it. We're going to get together, and there may be a loose agenda or a strict agenda, but we need to see each other. We need to interact. We need to be on the same team.
Got it. Yeah, it's interesting. And from our perspective, where given the nature of our work, a lot of our production, of course, has to be in the office. I kind of go both ways with it. For our non-production staff, we've solved it by having like a highly flex schedule, right? They know that they have to show up in the office occasionally and in a safe way, but it's as they desire basis versus any sort of mandated time, which has been our solution for now. It'll be interesting to see as New York comes back, whether the pendulum will swing the other way. I've heard some people say that they're begging to go back to the office and they just feel more productive there. And I've heard others say, this is the life for me, right? I can be anywhere in the world with a good internet connection, and it'll be interesting to see how we go.
I think by geography too, because I think, the bigger cities, where just your personal phone is just a, I think I would feel so restricted. I just want to get out, and make my workplace a separate place. But it'll be interesting to see how that works out.
What's harder for you to get? Great clients or great employees?
I think I hate to cop out, but I think they're just kind of equally hard in different ways. I feel like I would say great clients are harder to find. Not clients, but great clients. And especially in this remote environment, it just seems like there's so many opportunities to find and work with great people. I think it's a thing, maybe it may be a business sector kind of thing where there are a lot of people that do what we do out there, that are looking for a good culture and something that's a good fit for them. But when you're talking about aces, like the very cream of the crop, those are the hardest, and that's harder than finding any great client.
Sure. From my perspective, I feel that I have to sell equally hard to both. And it's important to sell hard to both because the value of, given that a small business by definition has fewer employees, the incremental value of each employee relative to the entire organization on a percentage basis is that much higher, right?
Yeah.
One great employee has a great impact. One awful, employee or just not a good fit, or, can have that much more impact. So we spend a lot of care and attention on who we bring on for that reason, because the expense of an opportunity in either direction is just a magnitude higher given our size. We think about that a lot, as we so that's the reason for the question. I along those lines, not dissimilar from printing, there are a lot of digital marketing companies in the United States. I don't know if you have, maybe you've studied the market, you certainly know it well. I don't know if you've paid attention to how many organizations there are, when you consider everyone from a freelancer to a large scale,
Yeah.
organization. How do you feel that you can differentiate yourself and stand out?
So how we differentiate ourselves and stand out. So speaking to there are a lot of digital marketing agencies, just start there. It is a business that has presumably a low barrier of entry to start out. So technically, if you have a computer and you're good at sales, you could start a digital marketing firm. You could say you could read some white papers and say you do SEO. I think where you start to pull away and your clients and create the separation between all the digital marketing firms that are out there is growing and your footprint's bigger and the service lines that you have to offer are deep and wide, and the investments that we make in the business make a big impact. So what differentiates us is and if just kind of to speak to that too, in thinking about the cities that we're in, I think we are, a top tier consideration. Obviously, you're still going to have, in a big metro area like Denver, you're going to have 30 or 40. But when you think about how many businesses are in Denver and how many businesses that are in Denver that need a great website and they need Facebook ads and they need PPC, there really aren't as many options out there as you might think in terms of being able to really go after quality. So to me, differentiation starts with having the capabilities and the breadth of services that are apparent, what you're doing. So as an example, our investment in software monthly is somewhere around $12,000 or $13,000 a month. And that's just basic softwares that all of our customers get hooked into and get to take advantage of. It's, anything from reporting to diagnostics to being able to provide key insights and competitive analysis, all of that stuff. And then it's just being able to have the people on staff and the tools to execute campaigns at a high level. So what we've got passionate about is having a process for each of our services and making sure that process is kind of acceptable from a best practices standpoint, but also has some unique characteristics to it. So when we're running a SEO campaign, there's certain things that we do that we think stand out to our customers, and able to tell that is a big part of it.
Got it. It's really interesting. I have to admit, it's interesting to hear you say that geography has an important relevance to your ability to compete and sell, because I don't necessarily think about digital marketing companies as perhaps geographically relevant. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So, we have a sizable book of business in Europe. And we have customers in Canada, customers in South America. You are right from that aspect of, you don't necessarily need someone that's in the same city. From a SEO standpoint, there are ways that you can put leads and on a local level that are a lot harder on a national level. So when you talk about specifically, how there are thousands of agencies. And if you apply that to the whole country, the answer is yes. If you do location specific marketing, it tends to work a little bit better, a lot better.
And historically, has that been a focus of yours, if location specific marketing over national?
Yeah, location specific, also paired with networking and paired with partnerships. So what we have done in the local market, find partners that intersect with people who may be asking questions about the services that we have that aren't competitive. So IT companies, an example of some great partnerships that we have. The customers will call them about their website and say, "Hey, can you guys build a website?" Or, "Hey, I need to open Google search," and the IT company doesn't do that. So having those partnerships in place locally make a big impact.
And let's talk about partnerships for a second, because I think on the surface, partnerships are like this obvious great idea. Hey, you have a client base, we have a client base. My clients need what you guys have.
There has
Your
to be
clients,
structure to it.
your clients need what we have. And yet the vast majority of partnerships, they just never go, they just fizzle, right? Because at the end of the day, it's like, well, why would I, help you?
Spend
Other,
my
yeah. So tell me, what do you think it takes to make a successful partnership? You've obviously, sounds like you've had some that have become successful. What do you find makes a successful partnership, or the attributes, whether it's in the structure of the economics or the match of the entities? To talk to me a little bit about that.
Yeah, I have specific secret sauce that I use. Both parties have to have a vested buy-in. There has to be a finished transaction. And the reason why is not because the parties are trying to profit from each other. It's there needs to be a reason that we're connected. And so, I've come up with some creative ways, I think, to establish these partnerships, and make sure that it's predefined and both parties can benefit. So, specifically looking at the services that we offer, there are partners that we may generate more leads on one side of it, but we can generate leads on the other side of it with our services. So I specifically approached one company, and we have this great partnership where, you know, my vision of success is that he has more leads. But our customers don't call us looking for what they have to offer. So what I did was I said, let's sit down and talk about how we can both make a big investment. So some ways that we can do that is make sure that is on purpose. We can formalize the partnership in the sense that we have employee messaging, we have customer messaging, we have a strategy to announce the partnership and talk about the partnership. Have a defined way for our salespeople to know about the partnership, and it is either successful or it falls from the head down. I mean, I think that the leadership has to buy in and they have to reinforce it, and you do have to find ways to keep the partnership reinvigorated. But I have had success specifically with that. So we went to a company and offered to my objective was to help them to rank in the top 3 in their metro area for what they did. And so our investment in the partnerships, let's run an awesome SEO campaign for these guys and generate leads in that way. And then in turn, also built out all their email marketing. And a part of that email marketing to their customers was, are you looking for a new website? Are you looking for digital marketing? And so we were able to leverage their customer base by offering those services to get those leads. And it's been incredible. We're almost 3 years into that partnership and it still works. But there has to be buy-in on both sides, and it has to be something that everyone's excited about, that you kind of keep going.
Mm-hmm. And in that case, I mean, as you're describing, you're motivated to rank them higher because you are effectively part of their email funnel pitch.
Yeah.
And so the higher they rank, the more, entrance into their funnel, and then the more leads you get.
Everyone has more leads. It's all
Everyone,
focused on
yeah.
leads. It's let's all
Yep.
get more leads. How can I help you get more leads, and how can you help me get more leads?
Mm-hmm. And and then to some degree, the trust in one another that the client experience you're going to deliver, right, is, which I know personally is a good one, but they know that their leads are treated well by your services and vice versa.
Yeah, so that has been a focus. So speaking to this specific partnership, my idea was, well, let me first before we go, make it a big announcement, make this official. Why don't you go through onboarding and let's dip your toe in the water and get to us and what it's like to work with us, and then let's let it evolve from there. There's no sense of urgency. This is an effort to have a long partnership. And so thinking term, sometimes you have to put your best foot forward. And sometimes you have to make the first move and make the first investment.
Mm-hmm. How much of your time do you spend looking for partnerships versus looking for acquisitions versus looking for organic growth?
So I'm fortunate in the sense that I have my business partner that's out looking at acquisitions. He's got two right now that he's vetting out. And I'm not even a part of the conversation. He lives in a different state than me now. And I'll just get a text, hey, have something cooking in Texas. And it's fun. It's like, okay, bring me in when it's time to take over. He's the numbers guy and I trust him. In terms of my efforts, so the interesting thing about the a digital agency is we're in the people business. We in essence sell our own time. And so it always seems like there's a deficit of people and we always need more people. And so the reality of this is, to this day, we're a multi-million dollar agency and I'm the only salesperson still to this day. I'm on 8 to 10 intro calls a week and I do all the follow-ups. And so fortunately, I do have two incredible vice presidents that really, they run the operation. I don't actively seek partnerships anymore because the work that I did early on paid off so well that it just keeps paying, it keeps giving, and then good work gets us more good work, and so on and so forth. So when I said we doubled the business in a period of 2 years, that was really specifically related to those partnerships that we set up that have just continued to pay.
Your company, in addition to the growth you've had, and congratulations for that. I mean, it's a testament. You're an exceptional sales individual, right? You can deliver behind it, but that is a rare breed that can handle that kind of work and that kind of energy. Tell me, you're now in the midst. You made a large acquisition last year, and you're now in the midst of a rebrand as you combine the entities. Walk me through that and
Yeah.
the challenges and opportunities that come with it.
Yeah. So I have always been reluctant of the idea that, hey, we have this new company, let's rebrand. And having gone through numerous acquisitions over the years, I think there's a temptation to have a new name. In this case, we brought two equal sized companies together. Both had, parts of the leadership team was staying and parts of the leadership team was leaving due to an exit. And we had two cultures that the synergies and the similarities were so powerful and strong, and yet they were very different. And so, one was, a young, kind of fun, scrappy marketing team, this can-do attitude, and, just everything they're producing just looks great. And on the other hand, you have this team that the company literally started in 1986 working on typewriters and then got into software engineering. And, the average employee has been there 15 years. And they have a very, engineering approach to everything. And so bringing those together, to me, keeping in intact the great things from the history of both and recognizing the opportunities for the future together, I think was so important. And so, we went through this process. We had a committee and a team that we put together, and it was individuals from both teams. And we really explored our roots, and we thought about, what aspects of the new company do we want to highlight. So unified under a brand, but also we redefined our vision, we redefined our values. What were joint values that we could all kind of circle around? And so it was a team effort of this committee, and I think that process, and we have a weekly company meeting we call Happy Faces, where we're reporting in all the fun things that we enjoy, and clients and interactions and employees. And it's just this constant update from this committee of, oh my gosh, you guys are going to love what we have. And that building that excitement was great. So it created this unity. I think it created this ability for the concerns that the individuals had about what might change kind of started to diminish through that process. So the rebrand to us was not just, hey, here's your new logo. It was two families and teams joining together as one. And it's really awesome when you have great people that do great work and they're really smart. You can just ask them to do something and they just deliver. And that's what they did.
When you described your business model overall as a human capital business, right? Selling your time. And I imagine that when, the focus on culture has a huge impact on retention, and obviously, maybe not obviously, but when you're going through a merger, right, a big focus for a human capital business is retention. And so I imagine this goes a long way to helping, achieve a good outcome there.
Absolutely. It's critical. And I did appreciate that the leadership from both teams recognized that, hey, we're going to have a new culture, but we can't do away with what made us who we are. And so, making sure that culture and the connection was a part of it was a big deal. So, and we actually, the funny thing is we do have a culture coordinator that was like right at the center of this too. So that was kind of fun.
That's an interesting role. Tell me, what does a culture coordinator do?
It's really someone in the company that's passionate about reinforcing the culture. And, we have a little budget and fun little things that we do and make available. And this person's job is to not just be creative, but also just make sure there's a calendar with things on it. So during COVID, we did virtual happy hours like a lot of people, and things like that. But yeah, the coordinator's role is to play with swag and, come up with things that are just kind of make sure the connection is there and that we're reinforcing, who we are as a company and why we're all working together.
Got it. And so as you grow and evolve, is your focus on more of the same type of client, or is it an inevitability that as you grow, you have to go after larger clients?
Yeah, I think it's a mix of both. Over the last couple of years, we've been able to bring on board some enterprise brands, and the impact that those make on the overall revenue of the company. It's the 80-20 rule. It's like they really do make a big impact. So it needs to be a part of it. But I think it can be a good mix. I mean, I think we can kind of just continue to grow as we are. I think we're kind of finished. We've rounded out our list of services. I don't see us expanding those too much. It's more about growth through clients and retaining our clients, and then going deeper with them.
Okay, so that wraps up this week's show. Thank you for listening to another episode of Owner Operated. If you want to help us grow the show, please leave a review on your favorite podcast app. If you think that you or someone you know would be a great guest for the show, contact us. We'll see you next week for another interesting conversation with an owner operator.